Welcome back to the Ram build. In this episode I want to get the doors ready to paint. I've been seeing this Scuff It product, but I've never actually tried it before. And I've got so much surface area on these that a lot of details and contours that are hard to work into with a regular Scotch-Brite pad. So I bought me a tube of this and I'm going to try it out. According to the label, just dampen your Scotch-Brite pad, apply a liberal amount, and rub it in. I didn't do a whole lot of scuffing on this. Normally I would scuff probably 3-4 times more, but I just went over it real quick for a first try just to see how well this works. Wow, that's amazing. I definitely highly recommend using a Scuff It type product. That took the shine off pretty quick without a whole lot of effort. There's a few spots that I still need to go over, but where I was concentrating on scuffing, it did a great job. Yeah, this will cut down the time of scuffing by a lot. Probably a quarter of the time that it would take to do this all without that scuffies. Now before I scuff up this high shine, I want to take advantage of that shine and really inspect it. Since this is a used door and it did get shipped freight, I want to make sure there isn't any waves whatsoever. It has a lot of orange peel. It does have that factory paint, but I don't see a single ding in it. There was a little ding right here on the top where they had strapped it to a pallet. Luckily I was able to just tap that out. This bottom edge isn't really viewable from the outside. It kind of is hidden, but it's really rough. The edge is all chewed up, so I'll definitely have to sand that smooth. I'll scuff up any of these details that are hard to get into with sandpaper, especially around in here. And then I'm going to, I think I'll cut all this smooth with a 320 grit sandpaper. I'll use my DA and just really flatten this out. And then I'll drop, and then I'll go up to a 500 or 600 grit sandpaper to finish off that 320 sand scratch. So I'll start with the scuffing compound and get into all these other details. I'm going to use the Scotch-Brite in this channel. It won't be seen, but by using the Scotch-Brite, it will get any grease or anything off, any contaminants, so that it does help a little bit for the black paint to bond to it. with the cab now painted and finished, and I've got the doors ready, I've got the fender ready. I still need to prep the hood. I've got majority of the hood done. It's all sanded, it just needs to be primed. I want to get these grill parts ready to paint too, as well as the front bumper. The front bumper's got some scratches and some pretty good chips in it. Luckily there's no dents though, so that needs to be all sanded and prepped. This is one of the brow pieces that goes under the headlights. It's the original one. It was just thrown in the back of the truck, so in shipping it got pretty beat up, so I need to sand that. This piece is the new one. When I ordered it, it said they come primed. This is just bare plastic, it's not primed, so we're going to have to sand that and get it prepped, and then I'll have to use plastic adhesive type of a bonding agent to prime that with. And then the grill pieces and the piece that goes across the top of the grill, those did come primed. But as you can see, this piece was mounted, and to be able to get around these edges and have a really nice professional finish, I'm going to take it apart. The grill itself, it actually came disassembled. So that piece is pretty much ready to just sand and prime, but it has these little bridges that they put in it, in the mold, and to help hold it all together. So I need to break those bridges out. They break off pretty easy, but then I need to sand and trim off these little points that it leaves behind. So in order to get these parts out, the way they're clipped in, you can see on this one, I went ahead and pulled the other side off. They have little snap clips around the edges, and it's pretty easy to break them. So one of the things that I have found that works and really helps out to get them apart without breaking them is to just have a bunch of little screwdrivers and force it in between those clip points, and then you can just slide it apart off of the smoothness of the tip of the screwdriver. So you can use anything that's thin, like a little spatula, a little piece of metal, anything that you can get in between there that will allow that to just slide off smoothly and easily. I have a bunch of just small miscellaneous regular screwdrivers, so I just slide those in between each one. And once they start to release, then the opposite side hits. So then you got to kind of work each one through. I'll just slowly work it its way off the plastic clips. I want to take it slowly and gently so as not to damage anything. And it has to go on an angle forward in order to release. And there we go. It's not simple and quick, but if you just keep working at it, can get it off without damaging it. The main reason I want to get these end pieces off is where this overlaps. I want to be able to have good paint flow down around this area so that when this snaps on top, you won't see that gray in between. Just to make sure these primed parts are good and clean, I'm going to go ahead and just quickly scuff it up. I'll use my Scuff It along with the 3M Scotch-Brite pad. Primer is pretty thin. It's just a light coat of primer, so it doesn't take much to actually go through it. So I just want to scuff and clean as much as possible without taking the primer off. And when it comes to this brow piece, this is the original one from the driver's side. It's pretty scuffed up, so I'm going to have to sand this one really good. The unprimed one has got some scuffs in it as well, so I'm going to have to prime that as well. So for that, I'm going to use 400 grit sandpaper. Well, it's rolling up little balls of plastic, so that's not going to work. I'm going to have to wet sand it. Coming out really smooth and got a nice fine scratch for the adhesion promoter. So that's pretty easy. That other one's got a lot of thick clear on it, so I'm going to have to sand on that for quite a while to get through. So I can use the DA on the painted surface. Just to make it easier to sand this fender, as I showed it in an earlier video, I sanded all of this outer E-coat completely off. The inside just kind of scuffed it up, but the outside I want it off because I've just had issues with paint bonding real well to that. The newer E-coats are so good that I could probably just scuff it good and it would stick, but I just don't want to take that chance. And then I primed, once I had this fender sanded all the way to bare metal, I primed it with an epoxy primer, so I know I got a good solid base, and then I sprayed it with a primer surfacer. Now the primer surfacers sand really quick and easy. The epoxies don't. Once the epoxies have cured for many days, they sand pretty easily. This has actually been on now for a couple of weeks, so it would have sanded well, but I wanted to use the black so that I could cut back on how much black paint that I used. This primer surfacer is pretty inexpensive. The black paint is pretty spendy because of the metallics. So that way I can cut back, keep the cost down, and I get a really good, smooth, sanded finish with this primer. So I'll just sand it with 400 grit. 400 grit is plenty fine enough. You can go 500, 600 grit. It cuts pretty quick and easy, but I've never seen a sand scratch show through with a 400. I just use water. You can use a soap and water mix, but it's not really that necessary. I attached the fender to the truck because I want to be able to sand it without the risk of it bending. I put a bend in the bed side when I was working on it. These are very lightweight materials to work with. So by getting everything mounted, I can guarantee that everything's going to stay put while I sand. If you want to knock it down really fast, you can use a 320 and get it all flattened, take out all the orange peel, and then sand it with a 400. And using your sanding block, you can squeegee it off, and you can see right away whether you've got it flat enough or whether you need to keep sanding. I'm close. Now you can see the epoxy showing through, so I know I've gotten plenty far enough there. Thanks for checking out my channel. I'm here to learn, to teach, and hopefully to inspire. So hit my subscribe button. I really appreciate you subscribing. Leave me a comment. I love hearing from you. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like. Thanks again for watching.